Today we are here to celebrate and to honor and to commemorate the dead and the living.
You're listening to Veterans Memorial News.
On D-Day, June 6, 1944, 15,000 young American men jumped from the sky and 60,000 more stormed in from the sea to save our civilization from tyranny.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
For veterans resources or to share your story, visit vmnews.us.
Today we'll be talking to Tom, an Army veteran who served in the 80s. We'll take a look at his time in service and hear some of the stories that defined his experience.
Well, my name is Tom. I joined the Army, of course, to serve my country, but I wanted to, of course, pursue some type of career. So those were the reasons.
So what year did you join the service?
1985.
Was there anything specific that inspired you to pursue that?
Well, I definitely wanted to serve my country. In my eyes, every man should serve. But as far as I see it, you should be willing to die for your country. And if you're willing to die for your country, then you should be willing to serve.
I understand that. What do you think about serving your country being mandatory?
Being required, that might be a good thing, but at the very least, they should give people, give them a taste of what it would be like somehow to serve their country, maybe in high school, make it some type of an elective class they could take. Yeah, well, there used to be a time you could take your rifle from home, get on the school bus and go to school and do target practice.
That's right.
And I think that's a good thing because it teaches every young man how to operate a firearm, which could come in handy in the future.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about your initial training experience and maybe the first few days after you joined the Army. What was that like?
I remember laying down at the bottom part of a bunk bed, somebody above me, and looking up and saying, "What the hell did you do, young man?" So,
oh, were you talking to yourself? Like, what have I gotten myself into here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was different. It was maybe a little bit frightening, maybe, but not really, because you were surrounded by other people in the same situation. So you're all going through the same thing, and it was just really different. And it's a change of worlds. You go from being home to being in the barracks with a bunch of men, and you could look at it like camp or any other way you want to look at it. It's just a totally different situation. So
yeah. So where were you stationed?
4-story Virginia Beach, but I went through basic in Fort Jackson.
Can you go through what basic training was like for, somebody like me who hasn't had the experience?
Well, when you made mistakes throughout the day, before you were done for the day, we would all line up in the barracks in the hallway. And I remember doing off and on, all through the day, basically. But you had to do it at the end of the day, too. But your punishment for screwing up, or anybody else, and you having to do the push-ups because they screwed up. I remember doing 800 push-ups and 1,100 sit-ups. So
My goodness.
yeah, it made you mean and lean pretty quick.
No kidding. That'll do it.
I didn't mind the exercise. I remember one guy kept screwing up, but he would also pick on guys. And so one night we decided to throw a blanket over his top bunk, and people held the blanket down on both sides of him so he couldn't get out. And everybody took a turn going up and hitting him. And he quit picking on guys the next day.
So he was a little bit of a bully and getting everybody in trouble, and you all got sick of it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, he was picking on people,
Yeah.
So we basically straightened him out. One night I remember when I was in basic, we were out camping or bivouac, and you had to sleep with your M16. You had to give it a name, and if they got that M16 off of you through the night while you were sleeping, you were in trouble. But that same night, we caught our drill sergeant up in a foxhole scanning his sector with a loaded M16. Yeah,
Ooh.
he was a bit of a nut. He was definitely a character. His name was Sergeant McGill, but he saw 3 terms in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
So he was a little whacked.
Yeah, he was deployed in Vietnam, huh?
Yeah, and that's probably the worst kind of drill sergeant you could have for basic training, or the best.
Yeah, I guess it depends how you look at it, huh? Wow.
Right.
So, what was your specific role or specialty during your service?
I was a 61 Charlie, which is a watercraft engineer, and later they changed that, I believe, to 88 Lima, and that's a support for ship-to-shore operations. So our unit was deployed in Vietnam with this Lark 16 or 60, and I think there's only 2 units like that in the Army.
What units were they?
Mine was a 309th Transportation, and that's for the Lark. The hovercraft, I forget what might have been 331st. It's hard to remember. That was another one of the units. I think those were the LAC V-30s, the hovercrafts.
Interesting. You told me a little bit about your experience working on the Lark LX60, right?
Right.
How are those? I mean, I looked them up, and they are kind of uncommon, I think, because I couldn't find very much on them, but there's a few pictures floating around. What was your experience working on those, and what was your typical day like?
Well, it's like just working on engines and vertical shafts and air compressors, and the prop, because it would go on land and then you could roll right into water, and it had props coming out the back like a boat, so it was amphibious. And it's just basic mechanical maintenance, and it was an interesting vessel. You could start the engines off the air and the tire. Yeah, what you do is close the air tank, close the valve for the air tank, and open a valve on the tire, and it would let air out of the tire to the air starter, which would start the engines. They were pretty neat.
That's pretty innovative. Was it a
Yeah, I guess for back then it was, yeah.
and would you say it was pretty simple to learn how to work on it and learn your I guess it would be your kind of scheduled maintenance on these vehicles?
Well, technically all we were allowed to do was change the oil.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually tore these engines apart,
Oh, really?
ground down the valves, and reseated them, and put the engine back together. Well, it's like anything else, you know. It's as far as mechanics, you know, it's just learning the basics and going from there, you know.
Yeah, kind of learn as
Yeah,
you
it'd be
go.
like it'd be like going to school to learn how to fix diesel trucks, 18-wheelers.
So, how would you describe the base's atmosphere? You know, did you have a good camaraderie amongst the soldiers, and how was your experience there in Fort
Oh,
Stewart?
it's good. It's like anywhere else. Just like on X, you're gonna meet people that you like, and you're gonna meet people that you don't. But overall, it was good. It's just the way the Army can go about doing things sometimes isn't very good.
Yeah, I've heard people say things like that, especially today. It's a different beast, I suppose.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the most valuable lessons you took away from your time in the Army?
Well, learning what I did with the diesels, it was one of them. Probably perfecting shooting with the M16. The day before we qualified at practice, I got 40 out of 40. And the day we qualified, the next day, my M16 jammed. So I had to unjam it, and I still got 36 out of 40. And the main purpose of the service is defense of the country. So that would definitely be one of the most valuable things in my eyes.
You felt prepared to serve your country after your training and what you learned.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Did you have a particular mentor or friend or leader that you looked up to that had an impact on you during your time in the military?
No, because they change. You got different ones in basic. And then when you get the permanent party, there might be people you like more. But as far as a mentor, there wasn't really mentors as far as I saw. You just learned your craft from people that knew more than you. Some of them might be privates. Some of them might be sergeants, you know, but those were the only ones that would be teaching, never higher than a sergeant. The lieutenants didn't come out and teach you things. Most of the lieutenants didn't know too much anyway, because a lot of them come straight from college.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good experience. I would also advise somebody that wants a career to go through technical school and don't necessarily think your only option is to go into the Army or service. If the military is being run right, it's a great thing. It's beautiful. But you got to have the right people in charge.
Yes, sir.
Just like any unit. That unit's only as good as their captain.
Absolutely. Looking back, what would you say is maybe the most valuable lessons you took away from your time in the Army? Did you learn any valuable skills or disciplines that you took with you and once you left?
Well, before I went in, I loved my country. But after I got out, I loved it even more. I was very proud to be a soldier in the United States Army. To me, it's a pretty unique feeling.
How would you describe that feeling?
I would compare it to the love of a woman, that powerful.
Wow. Did your time in the military affect what you did next?
Well, it should make you smarter and wiser. But I'm sure with some guys that didn't take place because they're just too immature. But yeah, you learned how to get along with people better and how to solve problems better by working as a team. You know.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing what your career was once you left? Was it similar to what you had learned while you were in the Army?
When I first got out, I can't even remember what I did as soon as I got out. I may have went straight into welding.
So how old were you when you got out of the Army, and did you ever get into any more mechanic work?
I was 25 when I went in, and I was in for 2 years. And the amount that I learned in the Army wasn't enough for me to go into diesel mechanics. Because basically, like I told you, all we were allowed to do was change oil. We took it upon ourselves to learn anything else. And we could be punished for that also, for doing that.
Interesting.
So we had to watch what we did.
Yeah, I guess they had strict guidelines or some strict requirements on what you were and were not allowed to do, huh?
Yeah, and if you've violated that, you were basically breaking orders, and you could be court-martialed.
Well, what are you most proud of from your time in the service?
Probably just how much more it made me love the country, and the improvement of my ability to handle a weapon and to do it very accurately. But that's basically what the military's for. You know, they didn't start the military in this country for you to find a career. It was started for defense. And I got really good at that as far as with the M16. And that's open sights, that's no scopes. I could probably hit an apple at 50 yards easy, maybe even 100 after a few tries. It's damn good. There were only 2 guys on my post that shot 40 out of 40, and I was one of them out of 5,000 men.
Wow, that's impressive.
I was very happy about that.
Yeah, that is too cool.
But yeah, just how much it made you appreciate the country that you were born in, and the pride that came from knowing you were a citizen in that country, and the love that you felt because of that, for that country.
Do you recall what the food was like at the time?
Well, in basic training, I would probably call it crap. But they would give you so much time to eat your meal. And if you weren't done, that was too bad. You had to get up and leave.
Wow, what kind of meals would they serve you?
Well, it would be food, and I don't know how they made it, but maybe it was powdered eggs. I don't know, but everything was rush. They want to get you used to moving fast, following orders and moving fast. I don't remember if we all got marched through a building where they gave you haircuts and passed out uniforms and that. Like you saw in the movie, Full Metal Jacket, I believe it was, or Stars and Stripes that Bill Murray was in. I guess we probably did, but I don't remember walking into the building or sitting down to get my hair cut or anything. But I guess we did, you know.
Okay.
That's back in 1985, so not all the memories are there, guy.
Understandable.
I'm 65 now, so some of them are gone.
Understandable. what's the best way for civilians to show their appreciation and support veterans like you?
One of them is to vote, and to try and live their lives and form their morals and beliefs around the Constitution. This country, I believe, was created and inspired to follow 10 Commandments and God. And the more you can do that, the better person you're going to be. Well, the thing that should be remembered is their sacrifice. Whether they saw war or not, when they joined, they were risking going to war at any time just by joining.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yep.
Absolutely true. Anything can happen. And everything's on the line at that point.
Yeah, with the way the world is and has been for the last 2,000 years, war could break out anytime.
Absolutely. And today I think we've got the most conflict in the world that we've seen since World War II.
I think you're probably right. Yeah. And that's not to mention the individual terrorism that's going around either.
What's your thoughts on what we can anticipate potentially for the future? Do you have any predictions or insights into what's to come?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any more major wars, because the countries that can blow the earth up many times over know that. And the countries that can't are afraid to mess with the ones that can. It would not be advisable.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It won't be good if it does go that direction.
And if there ever would be a World War III, the one after that will definitely be sticks and stones, if there's anybody left to throw a stone.
Yes, sir. I like your optimism in that, and I absolutely hope you're right. I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I could see there being no more major wars. After we get this stuff settled in the Middle East and over in Ukraine, you might have some smaller stuff break out, but I can't see anything major because Putin doesn't want to end the world. He actually wanted to join the UN and was told maybe by Clinton, and then later told, no, forget it, we can't do it. So I know he doesn't want to end the world. Xi Jinping doesn't want to die anytime soon, I would guess. And the smaller countries know if they mess around that they can just be eliminated, the whole damn country.
I think you're right. Is there anything else that you want to share about your experience?
Well, some of the best friends you might ever have in your whole life can be made from the relationships in the Army. It doesn't mean it will be, because a lot of people don't stay in touch after they leave. But it's very possible. But the memories of your camaraderie will be, it'll be a memory that you can cherish.
Did you maintain contact with any of the people you served with?
A little bit after I left. But as time goes on, I would say most of them just kind of fade away. Just like some of your old childhood friends, or most of them.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that.
Yeah. But the memory is nice to have.
Do you think you'd do it again if you could go back?
Yeah, definitely. Because they weren't forcing us to take vaccines. I'd definitely do it again. But I would wait until I had a couple more college credits, and I would have went in as an officer. So if anybody wants to go into the military, I would advise them to go to college, at least to get the amount of credits they would need to go in as an officer. If you're going to go in, you might as well go in at the highest rank you can. You can go in as an E1 private, or you can go in as a lieutenant. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered that. I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would tell any young man wanting to go in. Just be a little more patient. Go get some college behind you. Even if it's just to stay in college long enough to get the credit you need and then leave. But more than likely, if they went to college and they were going to go into the Army, they would also be going through ROTC.
I appreciate your time, and every story matters. Like you said, regardless of the details, it's an important thing, no matter how you slice it. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me tonight.
Yeah, it's no problem. My time wasn't as hard as these guys that go in and right away they're shipped over to war or in a war zone. After work, I could go get on my brand new motorcycle and cruise the strip in Virginia Beach and look for pretty ladies. So it was kind of nice being stationed there. But we got to remember, everybody doesn't have that luxury when they go into the service. They're thrown right into war.
Yes, sir. That's very true. Virginia Beach is a contrast to some of the things that people get thrust into. But,
yeah, I heard a story of a guy that was in the invasion of Normandy, and as soon as he got off that amphibious craft and stepped onto the beach, he hit the ground to get under cover, and a few seconds later, his buddy's head come rolling past him. So that's the kind of thing those men saw that gave us the country we got.
It's unimaginable to someone like me, just as your average civilian, going about their day, which is why part of the reason why I think it's important to have these conversations and shine a light on what it's like to be a veteran.
Yeah, these boys were 17, 18 years old, and it's so dramatic. A lot of them won't even talk about their experience. That's how traumatic it was. Those are the men that made sure this country stayed free. So
yeah, it's the reason we could sit here today and have this conversation. So it's definitely appreciated.
It's the reason we can go on X and say screw the government.
Yeah, it's the reason we have the Constitution, the First Amendment, and all the others that follow it. So it's a big deal, without a doubt.
That's right. And our Second Amendment protects the First. It's never about hunting or anything else. It's to make sure tyrants don't steal this country from under our feet. That's the only reason for the Second Amendment. And they said, some people argue, well, no, that's just for a militia. Well, how do you have a militia unless you have a well-armed public?
Right.
That's what the militia's made of.
Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate you coming on here.
I think it's amazing what you guys are doing, and it's beautiful. I appreciate you spending time with me and talking with me, and I'm sure you'll get some more military men to be able to make a more entertaining interview, but at least you got an idea of where one veteran stands as far as his views on the military, the country, and things like that.
Oh, this is fantastic. I think it's perfect. And the pleasure's mine, Tom. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and have a good night.
Yeah, have a great night. Thank you.